Hey everybody, and welcome back to Living Between Paychecks Kitchen. I'm Oz, Ejaculator still in Lake Jackson, and it's Thanksgiving week. Now, if you're watching in the future, Thanksgiving will be around in a little bit. But we're going to do dressing, or stuffing. Where I come from, dressing is dressing, and then stuffing is dressing that you put in the bird. So if it's different where you come from, I'm sorry. But this is a nice easy one. This is very Texas-based. I'm using it with a lot of the HEB stuff. Shout out to them. But you can use regular breads and whatever you get this stuff. But I would suggest if you have HEB to go get that the jalapeno bread that I'm using. It makes it. It is very cool. A lot of this is optional. If you don't want the jalapenos, it's very much up to you. But this is how I do it. So before we get into it, be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Get the bell in that little corner down there. Get notifications when we do these as close to Tuesdays and Fridays as we can. Also, there's a link down in the doobly-doo for our merch. I'm bundled up because it's cold, which means it's barely below 60 here in Texas, but I'm cold. So I've been losing weight, so that's just one of the drawbacks of being skinny, I guess. I'm not skinny yet. But let's just jump into the food. All right, a lot of stuff goes into this. You're going to need celery, like 2 or 3 stalks of this. You want a couple of onions. Sweet onions is what they said. Sorry about the focus here. It's just all over the place. It called for 6 cloves. I'm going to use just that whole damn thing. Jalapeno, that's an option. Again, this is very much Texas thing. You're going to want 2 decent-sized eggs here. Well, be careful with those. They'll roll off if you're not careful. You're going to 1 cup of butter, which these short ones, they'll show you it's half a cup per each one of these little half sticks, whatever. And then you're going to want a loaf of bread. Now, I let mine set out for a day or so it got stale. But this is the jalapeno cheese bread that I got from HEB. And then you're going to want some chicken broth, right? It doesn't have to be the organic stuff. It's just what they had left when I got there. Now, the seasoning stuff is where it's really going to come down here. You're going to want some parsley flakes, some rosemary, and some sage. Now, this is just rub sage, which is fine. Salt and pepper is fine. I'm using regular black pepper. Sorry about the blur there, man. I got a new thing. You can use salt. I'm going to use seasoned salt because I want it to be a little more spicy. And you're going to want some like vegetable spray or some kind of oil to rub around on your dish, right? So get your celery, clean it. See what I mean? Like there's dirt hidden all up in here. You got to clean your vegetables every time. Your garlic, be sure to peel that and get that set off to the side. Your onion, get you a nice sharp knife. Shout out to Andy. Cut off the top and the bottom and then skin it. You're not saving the skin unless you're making onion paper or something, but I don't know how to do that, so just pull it off. It's a little involved. It takes a little while, especially if you don't have good fingernails. Just pull that off. Once you get it nice in the skin, set one aside. Again, nice sharp knife. I'm going to turn it sideways and just cut it from the outside in until you get about halfway. Right? And then once you get halfway, turn it around. It makes it so much easier to grab. It took me almost 40 years of my life to figure that out. So, and then get it sliced down, and then we're going to stack up half of it, and we're going to cut it once across. All right. Again, shout out to Squire Mary. She's going to have to explain to me exactly what I'm doing with the knife here. But you just cut it across this way because the onion is layered. So when you cut it, it breaks down really easily. So you don't have a whole bunch of really big, long pieces of onion here. Be very, very careful with your fingers. Don't want to celebrate any kind of dressing or holidays with missing part of your finger. Save that for 4th of July. So go ahead and do that with both onions of these. Again, you want like medium size. You don't want like ginormous onions, but you don't want teeny tiny ones. And garlic, you want to try to mince this down if you can. Now, knife work doesn't have to be beautiful. This is not great knife stuff here. So I just cut it down. Now, I don't mind big mouthfuls of garlic, so I don't have to mince it too far. But I just take it and I do this, and I just kind of use other pieces of garlic to push it up underneath the blade. A, it keeps my fingers safe, and B, it cuts up that garlic. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Just cut it as best you can, and then we're going to put it right in with all the garlic, or the onion and stuff, okay? So just mince it as you can. Chop, 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 or as much as you have, any kind of patience for, or you just take out your frustrations with your family on that, and then put it in there. Now, again, your celery. Now, there's a couple of different ways here. Like, I usually don't want these great big pieces here, so I'll slice it a little bit and then cut it. You can see a motivated piece of celery jump off here. And then just cut it down the stalk. Now, if you're just doing it once like this, you're going to get with these big ones that are just kind of classic. You see those a lot in soups and things. So what I'll do is I'll take it and I will slice the stalk 2 or 3 times here. Just a little quick one. And then cut it across here. That gives you a much smaller piece of celery. I know it does great for the recipe and the flavor. I'm just not a big fan of it. So you get these little pieces here. That is so much easier. Jalapeno, again, this is optional. So if you don't want it, leave it out. Cut the top off, split it, and then pull those veins and seeds out. That's where a lot of your bitter and your capsaicin hides in there. So if you just want the flavor of your jalapeno, this is what you're looking for. Go ahead and pull those out, flip those over, cut them lengthways, whoop, big old long strips of jalapeno, and then cut it back the other way. Right? Again, you don't have to be a great chef to do this. Just take your time. This is sped up a lot with the power of TV to show you that. Just throw that in there with your onions and your garlic. Now get you a decent sized thing. You want to put it about medium high, and put that whole cup of butter. So that's going to be 2 of these little sticks. Like, be sure to read the paperwork. Make sure you're not throwing in 2 cups of that stuff. Once it starts melting, go ahead and put your onion, garlic, celery, and jalapeno in it, and we're going to cook this down to it starts to wilt. That's going to take anywhere between 8 and 10 minutes. All right, so give it a nice stir. Make sure that butter gets in there and that onion's broken up. Okay, so just let it cook, and while we're going to do that, we're going to start tearing up our bread. Like, this is pretty stale. It's stiff on the top. It's a little soft at the bottom where it kind of insulated itself. So just tear these down, break it apart with your hands. Some people cut them into cubes if you're kind of a perfectionist, but I'm not that big into that. So just tear these apart. You want like decent size. Like, you don't want like a whole mouthful of just straight bread in these. So just tear it down to the whole loaf. Sometimes you can pat it with a little bit of regular bread, or just do a loaf and a half of regular bread. This one's really thick because it's that HEB jalapeno and cheese bread, which is just amazing. So yeah, once you got all this pulled apart, just set it to the side. We'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so I want to go ahead and put in a pinch, or just to flavor, a little bit of your seasoned salt and your pepper into here while this is cooking. I put it in about 4 minutes in. Make sure I got it all nice and coated, then added the salt and pepper. Okay, you can use regular salt if you don't need to use the seasoned stuff. Once you get this and it's starting to get a little wilted, go ahead and add your seasoning. So we're going to end up doing 3 tablespoons, big freaking tablespoons of our sage, rosemary, and parsley. Now I'm going to do 2, stir them, and then add the other one, mostly just because I read the instructions wrong, read the recipe wrong. So we're going to do 3, even though I'm only showing you 2, and then a third one. I was really worried. My stepmom had made some when I was younger, where the top fell off the sage and it just kind of covered the whole thing, and it was just all green, all sage, which is really kind of a bitter thing. It was just an accident. It happens. But to this day, it makes me gun shy around sage. So again, get you a tablespoon. Just go ahead and add 3 of all these, and then stir them in. Now I put in 2, and I'm going to stir, then I'll have to go back and do a third because I had to check my recipe again. But yeah, you might want to cook it in there again. Once you put all this in, you want to cook it for another 1 to 3 minutes. Again, I went back and added a third of all of these. Tablespoons. I really thought it was going to be teaspoons because that is a lot of stuff, but it's seasoned. I mean, it's onions and bread, man. I mean, so you're going to need all that kind of stuff. So once you get all that nice and mixed in, let it sit for 1 minute to 3. Then you want to add 1 cup of the chicken broth that we used. Okay. Again, I use the unsalted stuff, so you might want to add salt later to flavor. But once you get it nice and cooking in there, you're doing good. You want to preheat your oven to 350. 350. You want to let that preheat while you're still doing this, and get your pan here. I'm going to use this. I think this is a 9 by 12. I think is what it was. More than large enough. Whatever size you think this will fit. You're gonna have to judge it by your bread. Okay. Then I'll put that 1 cup of the chicken broth in there. Let that stir, and we're going to let that cook for another minute once we put that in. Okay, so you can see how everything's nice and wilted and doing good. While that's cooking for that last minute, we're going to take our 2 eggs and put them in a bowl, and then add 1.5 cups of broth to that, and we're going to whisk it and just beat it like it owes us money. Okay, so just go ahead. Whoop, don't drop your cup into your onion mixture there, man. But the chicken broth, be sure to measure this nice and carefully because it can splash. And it's not hot, but the onion stuff you're cooking underneath it is. So if it splatters, it's going to get you. So I just use, because it's got a mark in there, just 1.5 cups, put it in there. Now you can use a fork. You don't have to use a whisk. I use a whisk because how often do I get to use it, right? But if you don't have one, just use a fork. Just kind of make sure the eggs are punctured and beat into it pretty good. Again, you're only going to do it for about a minute and then set it aside. Now, turn your heat off of your onion and stuff, and then just pump your bread right into it. Just put all the bread into the onion stuff that's been cooking. It's going to be warm, but it's going to be whatever. So stir this. Do it nice and slow. Do not hurt yourself. This is going to be very warm, so go ahead and give it started. I mean, some people do this in a big mixing bowl. I don't have a mixing bowl that freaking big, and if I did, I wouldn't have a place to store it. Other than just, it would have to live on the porch or something. So once you get that nice and stirred up, add your other broth and egg mixture that you've made, and then give it another nice big stir. Now, I just kept saying fold, which I think is just you get from the bottom and the sides and turn it into the middle. Just make sure it's nice and stirred, and then we're going to transfer it into our pan that we're going to cook it in. Bloop. Yeah, sorry, I got a new tripod, so this is kind of experimental on the angles here, so I apologize for that. But just, yeah, put that all in there. You want to even it out to where it's nice and good, and then we're going to put it in there with a 350 for 40 to 50 minutes, and make sure it's nice and preheated, or you might want to add an extra 5 minutes. Now, during that time, always check it about every 10 minutes just to make sure. If it gets too brown on top, you can take some aluminum foil and cover it, okay? And then it keeps it from browning so much on the top and cooks the rest of it. So I'm just going to put it in here. I'm going to show you what mine looks like after 50 minutes. Boom. Nice, it's warm, it's toasted on the edges. This is perfect. But if you want to go any further and you want to do a little more, go ahead and just get you some aluminum foil and cover that up and put it right back in. So that's ready to roll, okay? So just, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be right in, and it was very, very warm. So just kind of tint it, put it over there, and this, it doesn't hurt to do that when you're about to serve it and you're waiting on the other stuff to cook. But there you have it, man. Texas dressing, as I put together with a bunch of HEB materials, whatever, especially that jalapeno and cheese bread, which is absolutely amazing. This turned out really well. There's a lot of people that do dressing and stuffing different ways. I'd love to have this and actually try to stuff a bird with it, but I just didn't have it in the budget this year. This holds up really well. You know, it's stale bread, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But you might want to keep it tight, especially if you're going to serve it the next day. You want to cover it with that aluminum foil or put it in an airtight thing. If you're going to keep it for a few days, like this is enough for me. This is going to be my food prep for the week. So just as long as you keep it refrigerated, because it has that eggs and that chicken and stuff in it, so you don't want it to go bad. So keep it refrigerated and sealed. You're good to go. Reheat it wherever you will. The herbs and stuff in this one is just too good. It's just going to make the whole place smell like awesome food. So you got to give this one a try, man. Holy crap. There you have it. It turns out great. It is really fun. It is weird because growing up, it was always this mythical, creation dressing. You only get it like once a year because it's really hard to make. And it's mostly bread and onions, right? So that's cool. If you do it differently, want to see me do it differently, let me know. I want to visit and make one of these oyster stuffings everybody's always talking about. As somebody on the Gulf Coast, that sounds amazing. I don't think I've ever had it. So yeah, let me know. Put it down in the comments. That's what they're there for. Do it differently, how wrong I am. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Pinterest, Patreon, with all those that live between Paychecks Kitchen. You can also find me, Oswey Nerdy, on all of those, including TikTok and Twitter. You can find and Instagram. I'm over there. The show is over on Instagram as well. I live in between. We had to shorten it down. And then me, I'm just usually over there painting miniatures and being weird. But I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully this helps y'all out, and y'all be safe.